best experience I've had as a cat is really refining my public speaking experience. From meeting with employers and being able to talk with people I don't know about a whole variety of different things, to doing presentations with the cats and talking to all different students about various topics. I think I've learned a lot about interacting with people from different fields and starting conversations with strangers and really being able to convey your points pretty concisely.
Working the info sessions, because it's exposed me to a lot of employers and businesses and companies that I would otherwise have never looked at. So in those experiences, I've been able to talk to recruiters, tell them about my experiences, my background, my resume, even though I wasn't there to technically work for them. So it's been definitely enlightening to be able to go to so many different, diverse info sessions.
The Career Ambassador team has meant a lot to me over the past year, and I think the two most important things that I have received from it are first the mentorship from the Career Center and also from my peers who are on the Career Ambassador team, and also all that I've learned about different fields and different employers from doing the employer information sessions. I've really appreciated the Career Center's ability to work with all of the cats one-on-one, and I've also learned a lot from everyone who is a fellow cat and what they're doing in life and what they've done before me on the Career Ambassador team. In terms of employer information sessions, I think it's great that I've been to a lot of different sessions where I wouldn't necessarily have gone because it's not my field, but now I understand more about what my friends are doing and what my peers are doing, and when they talk to me about finance or they talk to me about engineering, I know a little bit about what that might mean for them in the future, and that's really valuable.
So I think there are a couple of things that let you know you have a really good info session. So the first thing is that you obviously have a lot of students there who are interested, and I think that the best way to judge the success of the info session is two ways. First, during the session, is everybody paying attention, and does it look like they're getting a lot out of it? So are people on their phones? Are they texting? Are they actually paying attention to the employer? And then obviously, the biggest sign of a successful info session from an employer's point of view is afterwards. So how many students are actively talking to them afterwards, are trying to mingle and trying to ask them questions. So I think that indicates a really successful info session.
What makes a bad info session? So I have to say that a good info session is when there's a lot of interactivity and humor, whereas a bad info session is when you have a dry presenter who doesn't incorporate the audience very much.
Not necessarily be on the PowerPoint. I think the great thing that employers can do during these info sessions is to make sure that they bring a diverse group of people to do the presentation. This is all forms of diversity. I thought it was especially helpful when employers had people who'd been there for just 1 or 2 years, and then employers who had been, and people who had been there for about 10, 15, 20 years. So you could kind of see if you wanted this to be a short-term path, if you were interested in it long-term, and I thought that was really valuable.
So aside from not having that many people, which is a pretty obvious big no-no, I think other major no-nos are when kids are very disrespectful to presenters, when they don't do their research beforehand and are asking really obvious questions instead of insightful questions. And then from the cat point of view, it's really important to be professional. So don't give them your resume until afterwards, until you're no longer fulfilling your role as a cat. I would say that's a pretty big no-no. Or leaving early, or not being aware of the different parts of the building that they could need opening, or where they can get more chairs, kind of stuff like that. It's very much being aware of your surroundings and what the employer could possibly need. So I guess that'd be a major no-no as a cat, is to not be aware of those things. So a major do is to arrive early. Employers oftentimes arrive really early to set up the info sessions, and as a cat, that's when you can be the most helpful to them, right? Because they need people to help sign in the 100 people coming to the info session or help them give out their giveaways. The other thing you really need to do is be proactive. So sometimes they don't expect a cat to be coming, or they don't know necessarily what a cat is there for. So be proactive in introducing yourself and then suggesting things for you to do. So say, do you need anything setting up? Do you need me to help you check in? Stuff like that. And just be very, very proactive with what they need throughout the info session. Major don'ts. Number one, make sure that you dress appropriately. That varies by industry, obviously. Sometimes you go to a Microsoft info session and wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and sometimes you're going to a banking info session and they're in suits. But just be very conscious of the industry and of what level of dress you need to be a part of, because you don't want to be over or underdressed. Like I said, another major don't is giving them your resume before you're done with the CAT info session, because then that confuses them as to what your actual role is. Another major don't, make sure that you make your name tag really available so that both the students know who you are and the employer knows who you are.
So some do's I would say is that the students really prefer networking to sitting and watching the informational session. They really appreciate being able to speak to recruiters, asking them questions, hearing their responses. So I would really encourage more networking. As well as when you're a recruiter and you're speaking to the students, to give everyone a chance to talk, because some students tend to dominate conversation more than others. So make sure you let everyone ask the questions that they have. And in terms of don'ts, I would just say that it's not necessary to invest so much in the finger foods, because the students tend to be afraid to eat. They're not very sure if it's allowed or if it's taboo to eat while you're talking to a recruiter. So if you do provide food, let the students know in a casual mention that it's okay to eat the food. Or if you don't want to have or be stuck with any leftovers, don't invest too much on it.
I think there's a lot of positive things you can do during info sessions. One of the most important ones is making sure you dress professionally. I know that sometimes it's a little bit intimidating to know sort of what the dress code is for a particular company, and my first information session was with Microsoft, and I definitely was the only person in professional dress. However, you have an excuse because you say you work for the Career Center, and that makes it look like your uniform. So I think it's always better to overdress rather than underdress if you're unsure about a company. I think another important thing is to make sure you're paying attention, because it's not just about being there when they call on you to ask for help setting up a projector, but it's also being able to give them feedback at the end, or at least to give the Career Center feedback that they can pass on if the employers ask for any tips. So it's good to really know what their positives were, what their weaknesses were, be able to engage with them afterwards if they ask you some questions about the presentation. So make sure you're paying attention. And I think a big don't about presentations is to make sure that you don't get there right when everyone else is just getting there, and that doesn't leave you an opportunity to sort of show up 10 minutes early, speak to them, introduce who you are, make sure you get their card before everybody's trying to network with them, and tell them that you're there, and then go sit in the back so that they know in the future if there's a problem with the info session they can talk to you.